blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's a blockchain spell made of David's got so much to tell.
Hello, GM, and welcome to another episode of the Blockchain Experience. I'm your host, Meta David. On today's episode, we have Anika, who is a developer on the Base team over at Coinbase. We've actually had this interview on the calendar for a few months now, even before on-chain summer, but for a variety of reasons on both sides, we just had to keep pushing it back. But we finally connected, and it was a great conversation. We talked about what Base is, Optimism, L2s, and how one can get started on Base as a creator, and how one can get started collecting on Base. We were able to cover a lot of ground in a short period of time, so I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. As always, though, before we get to all that, a word from our sponsors. Ledger is the smartest way to secure crypto holdings. Their hardware wallets are trusted by over 4 million customers. Ledger can be used to secure, store, and manage over 1,800 crypto assets. Using the Ledger Live app, you'll have a one-stop shop for your crypto needs. Buy, sell, exchange, and grow your assets with Ledger's partners securely and easily. Stop getting your wallet drained. Head over to ledger.metadavideth.com and take self-custody today. Have you ever wanted to display your NFT art in the physical world? Look no further than Token Frame. Token Frame's patent high-quality physical displays start at 10 inches and run all the way up to 55 inches. They're truly built for authenticity. Just sign in with your wallet, connect to Wi-Fi, and cast your NFTs. It's really that simple. And best of all, no subscriptions. Token Frame supports Ethereum, Polygon, and Solana with Tezos on the way soon. It's no wonder they're trusted by OpenSea, SuperRare, Nifty Gateway, and more. Start flexing your NFT art by visiting tokenframe.metadavideth.com. Again, that's tokenframe.metadavideth.com. Today we have Anika joining us from the Base team over at Coinbase. How are you?
I'm doing great, David. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor.
So I've wanted to have the Base team join us today because I like what you guys are doing on a layer 2, and we'll talk about what a layer 2 is in a little bit. But what I also like is the fact that Coinbase is an exchange. So you guys probably have some good insights on tracking that like end user journey and helping usher in mass adoption. But before we get to all that, Anika, can you kick it off with an intro on yourself and your role at Coinbase?
So my name is Anika. I am an engineer on the Base team at Coinbase. And I mostly focus on building smart contracts for the Base ecosystem and setting up and designing our key infrastructure.
So I'm going to ask like a super basic question is, what is Base?
Base is an Ethereum Layer 2 network, which is incubated by Coinbase and built on top of the open sourced OP stack. And the goal of Base is to bring the next million developers and the next billion users on chain. And Base wants to do that by making it easier for developers to deploy apps and to build on chain. And Base is supported across Coinbase consumer products, which makes it really easy for then the next millions of people to continue interacting with Base. So we have these experiences like getting from zero to minting an NFT using Coinbase Wallet. Yeah, but at the same time, it's a fully open ecosystem. So customers have the ability to kind of interact and use whatever products they want with Base.
So what is a layer 2?
So layer 2 refers to any off-chain network or system or technology that's built on top of a blockchain, which we refer to that blockchain as the layer 1. And it helps extend that blockchain and provide enhancements. And in our case, the layer 1 is Ethereum and the layer 2 is Base. And Base is kind of providing some additional scalability and cost reductions that we can also get into more later.
So, I mean, if I'm a creator, what problem would Base be solving for me as a developer? Looks like you guys have a mission to onboard 1 million of those developers.
I would say we're tackling a few things on the developer side and a few things on the creator side. And I would say for creators, the biggest barriers to entry in crypto right now are oftentimes the cost. Using Ethereum is super expensive. It's been essentially at capacity more or less for the past few years. And so because every essentially block in the blockchain is full of transactions that can lead to these hundreds of dollar transactions we saw during the bull market to just mint an NFT or to set up an NFT if you're a creator. And Base essentially provides a 10x improvement as a layer 2 in terms of cost. And we're also focusing a lot on the usability piece of it. Kind of how easy is it for a creator to just come to Base and immediately be able to have an intuitive experience to create what they want to create.
What would you say is Coinbase's? How would you say Coinbase is uniquely positioned to make Base thrive?
In that vein of bringing the next million developers and the next billion users on chain, I think Base is trying to focus on the developer piece by making it really easy for developers to have the tools and the infrastructure that they need to build on Base. And in relationship with Coinbase, I think that provides some of the onboarding experience for consumers on the bringing the next billion users on chain side of it, because by onboarding Coinbase users onto Base, this kind of creates the distribution and that mass distribution that we would need for Base to really get to that goal.
What advantage of Ethereum has been the concept of smart contracts?
Mm-hmm.
So for our listeners, can you kind of just define what a smart contract is?
So a smart contract is a piece of application code that's essentially deployed onto a network, whether that be Ethereum or Base, and it exists at a certain address on that network. And so people can interact with that smart contract via sending money to it. For example, how you would send money from one address to another address, or calling specific functions. And the smart contracts are kind of how we set up the Base network to talk to Ethereum in the first place.
And how do the concept of keys, I hear that a lot, how does that play into like the Base network?
Keys kind of refers to the public and private key pair that's associated with an address that exists on a network like Base or Ethereum. And keys are involved everywhere in crypto, and they're also fairly complex because essentially if a malicious party were to get access to a private key, they can do a lot of damage. So and if you're using Coinbase Wallet and someone got access to your private keys, they would have access to your funds. And so in a similar way, in setting up the Base network, we had to think a lot about key management and making sure that our systems are super secure. And yeah, like I mentioned, that's kind of what I was focused on since I worked on the key management team prior at Coinbase. So I kind of was able to see that insight into the complexity and security that goes into it.
So for folks that have like an Ethereum wallet, they don't need to go out and get like a separate Base wallet, right?
Yeah, so because Base is built on Ethereum and has that what they call EVM equivalence, the address that you have with a wallet on Ethereum is the same address that you would use on Base. And so you can use that address interchangeably. And that means you could send like Ethereum from like the Ethereum token from the Ethereum network to Base, and it show up on your same wallet address on Base.
So I imagine a lot of our listeners, we have a big crowd in the US, and Coinbase obviously has a very big percentage market share here in the US. Personally, I'm a user myself. So if I have like a Coinbase account and I want to go out and purchase assets that are on the Base network, what steps do I have to take to do that?
So there are two ways. You could either buy an asset directly on the Base network, which you could do through any of the Coinbase apps in the same way you would buy any other cryptocurrency. Or if you wanted to convert your Ethereum from Ethereum Layer 1 to the Base network, then you could go onto the bridge.base.org, which is a UI we provide to essentially convert your Ethereum from Layer 1 to Layer 2. And you could connect your Coinbase wallet there and then have a UI that guides you through how to do that.
So what I find really cool is the fact that you kind of have like two paths and you don't necessarily have to go like the bridging route, which is often the case with a lot of layer twos. Like you can go just like directly from fiat to base, right? If you have like a Coinbase. I mean, there's probably some other exchanges that can do the same thing, but it seems like you guys have like a direct path there that you can take, right?
That depends on what assets exist natively on Base. But essentially anyone could deploy a new token directly onto Base, natively onto Base. And if Coinbase decides to list that asset, then someone could purchase that asset directly on the Base network.
Optimism is kind of part of the equation also, which is another layer two. You mentioned them earlier when you said OP. Can you speak to what role they're playing in this entire ecosystem?
Yeah, definitely. So Base, like I mentioned, is built on the OP network, and we have this concept of the OP superchain, which is essentially there can be multiple layer twos that are built on the OP stack, and they're all networks within this larger OP ecosystem, which is called the OP superchain. But to back up, the reason we even chose to build on the OP stack was that one, the technology is open sourced and MIT licensed, meaning that we can fully use, interact, and contribute to this code and build in the open, which is one of our main values. And then the other part is that we've had a really positive relationship with the Optimism team. We worked on them. We worked on some Ethereum stack work with them early on, which was actually an initiative to kind of reduce fees further on layer twos. And since then, we worked with them to kind of build and launch Base, and in general, our values and vision align pretty closely with the Optimism team. So we kind of have this super chain vision that we're hoping to contribute back to.
So there's like this, relationship between decentralization and security, and you mentioned proof. What are I've heard this term fault proofs. What are fault proofs, and how do they play into decentralization?
Fault proofs are something that has always been in the vision for the OP stack and is now kind of becoming a reality. It's been released onto the test networks. But what it is essentially you can think of it as providing a check and balance over the network operator. And so in our case, Base operates the sequencer, which is you can think of it as like orchestrating messages between the layer 1 and layer 2. So there are smart contracts which kind of handle all the messages, but when they actually get posted between layer 1 and layer 2, that is done by this sequencer that Base operates. And so that is a point of centralization in the network currently. And by providing fault proofs, someone could come along and say that I disagree with what the sequencer said. I think the sequencer is like malicious or whatever is just incorrect. And anyone in the world could essentially challenge the sequencer. And the way that it's set up is that as long as there's one honest participant amongst these people challenging, then the correct answer will always win. And so that kind of extends the security property by providing more security across the masses, as well as providing a check on this centralized sequencer.
So switching gears a little bit, I've been following what Base has been doing pretty closely, but I think it really started to gain a lot of traction and visibility with On-Chain Summer. Can you speak a little bit about how that went? And I guess even though it's not summer anymore, it's still ongoing, right?
Yeah, so On-Chain Summer was a multi-week celebration of on-chain art and culture and music and gaming and much more, all things built on Base. So it is ongoing, like you mentioned. There's kind of this on-chain daily, which is trying to keep up the energy of on-chain summer. But at the time we had partnerships across various industries. We had partnerships with Coca-Cola and Atari and Friends with Benefits, and kind of providing these unique drops that would allow people who were just getting to know of Base or just starting to use Base very actionable ways to interact with the network. And it generally was able to showcase these new use cases, and I think people found it to be a lot of fun.
So, as someone who works at Base, what did you like about it?
Yeah, there were a few drops that I thought were really cool. I particularly liked ones that kind of showcased this utility that we hadn't otherwise seen, or I hadn't otherwise experienced in the crypto world. So one of them was called On-Chain Hats. It was a NFT of a hat that you could mint, and then you could exchange that NFT for a physical hat. So I was able to go through this experience and then have a hat show up on my door like 2 weeks later. I thought that was a really cool experience that was enabled. Then there was something called Blackbird, which is a project that partners with popular restaurants and provides loyalty and memberships and benefits for foodies or people to connect to their favorite dining spots. And so by minting that drop, people could go to a few restaurants in New York and be able to get these exclusive experiences there. So yeah, those are a couple like more utility based examples during OCS, and also there was a Stand with Crypto Day of Action drop, and so that was also a way for people to kind of signify their general support and advocacy of crypto innovation.
Yeah, I really liked the execution of On-Chain Summer, and I think that you guys did a public good because even though as a participant in this space, I mostly had my L2 assets almost as like investments, almost not so much, tokens to like participate in governance and that sort of thing, but not so much in the sense of using them to actually purchase things. But the way that you guys executed it was so good that I actually went out and bought like other things that were on L2, like prohibition.art, for example, which is on the Arbitrum network. And it's something that I think a lot of people would have not done ordinarily. So I'll just kind of throw it out there that I think that you guys really spearheaded a movement where L2s gained a lot more traction than they've historically had. And people have really gotten into the comfort level of using L2s, which I think is super critical, as you talked about in the beginning of the podcast, because it's just not like, as much as someone could be an Ethereum maxi, at the end of the day, you can't really justify like the gas fees and don't necessarily need to justify them either. Like there's other ways to kind of get to the end point, and it doesn't have to be like through Ethereum only. You can use some of these layer twos that you guys have, for example, that you guys have deployed to kind of get the benefits of an Ethereum network, but not necessarily like the added cost and also the time like to execute on a transaction, because in my experience with Base, it's just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Ethereum, sometimes it takes a little bit, like when you're working directly with Ethereum. So I really enjoyed my time with On-Chain Summer. And when you mentioned was it Blockbird? I think it was.
Blackbird, yeah.
Yeah, I think I bought virtually like every single one of those drops. And even like with the ones with Coca-Cola, which you guys partnered with, I think I bought like every single token. And I know that I bought like the Blockbird one too, but I haven't went out to New York City, which I'm local to, and use some of those benefits there. So that you kind of put that in the brain now as probably an action item that I got to do sometime one of these weekends. So, so if like I'm a creator, how do I get started on the Base network? Like, how do I start doing things?
I feel like a change and a shift that's starting to happen is creators don't need to be technical. And I think that's kind of following a similar trajectory as the internet, where it used to be maybe a lot of barriers to entry for creators to kind of get their work out there. And, we do have still a long ways to go with crypto, but I think we're starting to see these specific applications pop up where the user experience is really intuitive. So a few examples, create.fun is a ability to kind of quickly mint an ERC 721 collection with high visibility and intuitive minting tools, and that kind of provides this Instagram-like experience. There's also highlight.xyz if you want to create more kind of complex generative code artwork. And also, if you're more of a musical artist, there's sound.xyz, which allows people to mint their and release music on chain. That also has like a very nice UI and intuitive experience. So I think we'll continue to see more and more of these sorts of things pop up. And yeah, like you mentioned, on-chain summer is continuing. So this on-chain daily, which we have, is trying to highlight new use cases every day of new projects that we're coming across. So we can definitely look forward to those as well.
And to round things off, what's on the roadmap for Base and Optimism?
Yeah, great question. So we are focusing on two main things, I would say right now. One is just developers. So we think that by getting these million developers on chain, that will enable this next wave of people. And so that looks like creating tools for developers and resources. So there's a few resources I would recommend for developers, which is there's a Base Bootcamp. It's essentially a curriculum for software engineers who are interested in now going into smart contract engineering. And the curriculum is public, but also we have a cohort of people who are taking this boot camp that can get mentorship as well. And there are also builder grants, which we recently announced, and we can provide links to those. But getting back to the original question, what else is on the roadmap? Besides developers, I would say decentralization is the second biggest piece that we're focusing on. That looks like focusing on a few different components of the system that are currently still mostly run by Base or by Optimism, whoever is running their chain. And their like fault proofs was an example of one of those things that will continue decentralizing, but there are a few other efforts decentralizing the key management and decentralizing the sequencer. So that's the other big thing that we're focusing on.
And going back to the boot camp, which is really interesting, you mentioned cohort. So is that something that a developer can get on like a rolling basis, or do you have to wait till like the next cohort boots up?
Yeah, so we ran our first cohort internally, and I was a mentor for that one. So it was really fun to kind of see the students go from 0 to 100 and give like a final project. So there's a second cohort that's about to start. I think it's probably too late to apply to that one, but that one's public, and the future ones will also be public. And I think the third one, which starts maybe in January, is one that you can currently apply to.
Okay, so got another one to look forward to in January. And then as far as like the prerequisites, do you need to be like well versed in Solidity to start off, or do you guys kind of go through that, or how does that look like?
Yeah, so the audience is actually people who've never done Solidity but have some sort of like software engineering background, and so yeah, from what I've seen, it's quite successful if you're just generally versed in software engineering and are really excited to learn about Solidity and get building on chain.
Very cool. Anika, it was such an honor having you on the podcast. Really appreciate the knowledge that you dropped on our audience and the things that we have to look forward to, whether you're a creator, a developer, or someone like myself who's just like a collector and enthusiast. So lots of good stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David. It's been great.
And that was our interview with Anika. I'm a huge fan of Base because, as I brought up in the interview, I think they've done a great job of just ushering in that mass adoption for L2s that's necessary for Ethereum to scale. What we really need is quick and cost-effective transactions, and L2s, especially Base/Optimism, do both of those things very well. So I'd encourage all of you to really do a deeper dive to get outside of that Ethereum L1 bubble, if you are in that, and experiment with both creating and collecting on the L2 side. I don't think it'll disappoint. So, and I'll add another thing. As I've talked about before, we will be living in a multi-chain world and a multi-layer world at that. So as you're on your crypto and blockchain journey and you're early right now, this being L2s is not something you'll want to skip and have to go back and learn when everyone else already has a good grasp of it. So that's my spiel on that. So take it to heart, please. So anyway, I have been getting a lot of DMs asking me about the collectability of the podcast, which we haven't done for a few weeks now because of our partnership with Nifty Gateway being severed. I am still working on it. The issue is not so much a technical one, but it's more along the lines of what a partnership will look like. In all transparency, the bottleneck has been mostly me, not the potential partners I've been talking to, but trying to balance a bunch of things all at once, not just on the business side, but also on the personal side. As you guys know, or I think most of you know at this point, your boy is expecting a baby. In fact, by the time you're hearing this episode, that baby will have been born this past Friday, November 24th. So hopefully baby and mommy will be good and healthy. It's kind of weird talking about that because as I'm recording this will be a future thing. As you guys will be hearing it, it's a past tense thing. So kind of weird saying it like that. But anyways, I'll keep you guys posted on that and on the past few episodes being dropped as a collectible. I will be doing another episode soon to discuss Scoop 3, which is a project that I've alluded to a few times, mostly on Twitter, a little bit on LinkedIn. Kind of cryptic, not crypto, but cryptic, that I've been working on the past few months. So a lot going on, all good stuff. I will be sharing soon, so stay tuned. And until then.
Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's the blockchain spell made of David. Got so much to tell. Bringing you the latest news without fail. Hey, decentralized and secure. It's been making way. You can't tamper with data. It's not the same old way. From finance to art, it's bringing all the trust. The blockchain experience. It's a must. Hey, welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's not just for the big boys, it's for everyone. It's a new way of doing things. It's second to none. So jump on board, join the revolution. It's a blockchain experience. It's a movement. Give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up for the blockchain experience. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's a blockchain experience. It's a blockchain experience. It's a blockchain experience. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Major David. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Major David. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Major David. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Major David. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. the blockchain